few weeks ago I had an ADHD assessment and I decided to film the whole thing in case it's helpful for someone else. A few things before I show you the video. I live in the UK and the waiting list here for the National Health Service for ADHD assessments is so long, so I decided to get a private assessment. Now usually private assessment in the UK can cost between £1,200 and £2,500, which is such a lot of money. But fortunately, I found a company that charges less than £300. It's exactly the same service, it's just cheaper. Usually the assessments are done online, but for the purpose of this video, they agreed to do it in person and for me to film it. For those that live in the UK and are interested in getting a private ADHD assessment, I've linked to the company that I used in the description. Before the assessment, I had to fill out a number of questionnaires that asked questions about my childhood and also my behaviours and habits as an adult. And my mum also filled out a questionnaire as well. And then the results of those questionnaires combined with the assessment gave the result of whether I had ADHD or not.
So Laura, tell me, what led you to reach out for an ADHD assessment?
Interestingly, it'd never been on my radar, but some YouTube subscribers in the comments said, they worded it really nicely. They said, don't take this the wrong way, but have you ever been assessed for ADHD? And the first one I read, I was like, what are they talking about? I almost felt a bit defensive.
Yeah.
And then I got another one, and then I got someone else, and then someone emailed me, and I'm thinking, hold on a minute. And they was all referring to certain things that I was saying in videos, and they was all pointing to the same thing. And I thought, well, let's have a little look into this. And I started looking at undiagnosed adult ADHD, especially in women. And I actually have got goosebumps thinking about it, because I was watching these videos and these interviews and I was thinking, you're describing me and you're describing all of the problems, or you're describing a lot of the problems that I've had in my adult life. And it was quite chilling to suddenly think, I might have ADHD, and how have I not ever known? How has no one ever said to me prior to my 42 years, have you ever considered that you might have ADHD? And that 6 people on YouTube who I think themselves have it, or potentially know someone very close that have it, they identified in a few small sentences. And so it was on my radar, and then I got very, very ill, really ill, mentally. And I was at the point of desperation. I was at the GP and it was okay, but they weren't really giving me what I felt I needed. And then it was if by magic that I was searching for private ADHD consultations, and they were like £1,000 and £2,000, and I'm thinking, this is a lot of money. And I was standing in the line waiting to go into the doctor, because I got there early, because they would always say come back tomorrow, so I got there early and I was desperate, and I was online and I found you guys, and I felt as though like someone was looking out for me, because when I saw that it was such an affordable price and that it could be processed so quick, I was like, well, this is a no-brainer. I'm doing it. And I sent the email to Mark in the line in the doctor of like coming out of this really bad spell, and then here we are.
Sometimes things just align and they're meant to be.
Yeah, and I can't believe that it had never been on my radar before.
I think people have still got that poster child image of a naughty little boy running around the classroom, upturning tables, being incredibly disruptive. When people think of ADHD, that is what they think of. They don't think of women who are potentially successful, who have gone through academia, either doing well or masking to do well. That's what they think of when they think of ADHD. So I think now that we're starting to realise and unpick what actually it can look like in women, there's this whole group of people who are just kind of going through life not really knowing why they maybe don't fit in or why they feel different, and then suddenly they'll have this moment of, oh, maybe that actually does describe everything. And it's kind of the validation, I think, then, of having a label to be like, yeah, this makes sense now.
Yeah. There's so much I could say right now.
Go for it.
Yeah. Even the fact of finding you guys and knowing that it could be a thing, even if I haven't got it, and knowing what it is and whatever label or whatever something I may or may not have, even the understanding that my brain does work differently. My friends have told me it for a long time. My brain does work differently. I know it works differently. And so even the fact of knowing that that's okay, whereas before I felt broken, I felt dysfunctional, I felt like I'm like a faulty item, and that I didn't fit in with normal society, but I tried to fit in, and then that's really hard. So then I wonder why I've spent 18 years suffering with depression. And so suddenly I'm like, oh, I might have this. And even if I haven't, I've got this new understanding and this new appreciation of my brain.
Yeah, definitely. And I think my favourite thing that a client said to me during an assessment was they feel like everybody's been given a handbook of life and they don't have a copy. And they kind of missed out in the line somewhere where they didn't get the copy. Or that they're working on a completely different, like the whole world is working on Windows and they're operating on Mac.
Oh, what a great comparison. Yeah, I'm definitely missing chapter 2 and chapter 7. They're like blank pages. Yeah, they're not there.
It's all right, they might be the worst chapters anyway. You might not want those ones.
They're the boring ones.
Yeah. Just keep all the exciting ones and get rid of the boring chapters.
Yeah.
So growing up, who did you live with?
Lived with my mum and dad till 7. Then dad left at 7 and I lived with my mum.
Any siblings?
Just me.
Awesome. Any family history of anything similar or any mental health issues?
It's quite... No, my dad's side is, I would say, stable. And my mum's adopted, so we don't know anything past her. So that's, it's tricky.
Yeah, definitely.
But they're both, they've both got great brains. My dad's very artistic, engineering, problem solving, and my mum is she's very intelligent. I've got little bits of both. I'm very grateful for my mum and dad's brains. Yeah.
And when your mum was pregnant with you, any issues with the pregnancy? Like, were you low birth weight? Any particular trauma or complications, or early?
I think there was a problem with me breathing when I came out, and I was whisked away for a few minutes, but then I was all right.
Good.
But other than that, it was a very successful pregnancy.
Good. And in terms of milestones like walking, talking, did you achieve them within the expected time frame?
They've never said anything different, so I would expect it would be normal.
Yeah, most of the time people know. If they're early, people tend to get told. You know what mums are like. They love to be like, oh, you were so early at something.
Yeah, I've never been told that.
And then what were you like when you were little? How would you describe yourself?
From nursery school, I got moved from, I think I sat on the mixed table, and then I got moved to the boys' table, which made me worse, because I would chat. Then I got moved and I had to sit behind the teacher's table, which was in an alcove. And through every year up until I left school, I had to work by myself. In secondary school, I would be moved to the library. I would be moved to the library because I was so disruptive. I was a good student and I wasn't naughty like some of the really naughty girls. So it was borderline, but they tried to expel me in sixth form because I just wasn't great. But they couldn't expel me because I wasn't doing anything wrong. I was just being disruptive.
And when you say disruptive, what kind of things were you doing?
Talking in class, distracting, my friends, distracting the teacher. I just wasn't interested at all. Put me in history class and I was so bored. Like, so bored. But put me in music class, there's no stopping me.
Yeah. And what about things like homework or revision for exams?
Terrible. Yeah, terrible. Homework, I'm surprised. I don't know how I got away with it, because I worked out that if I didn't do my homework, the teachers couldn't make me do it. They could give me detention, but I was in detention anyway. So I very rarely did it, unless it was maths, because I enjoyed it and I was good at it, and I used to do it in lunch break because it was fun. And what was the other question?
Revision for exams.
Oh, night before. Yeah. Cram. Yeah. Why would I revise? Why would I revise? I would get a pretty decent...
Yeah.
And also, if it was a subject that I wasn't interested in, then why would I want a good score in it? Because I knew through the rest of my life that I wouldn't need that score. So if it was something that I knew that I would benefit on later in my life, then... Well, I was also music, maths. I liked those, so then it was no problem.
Yeah, which makes sense.
Yeah. And I was naturally gifted at those as well.
Yeah.
I think I got A's without kind of studying, it just happened, because that's my brain understood how to work those things out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what about organising a school bag? Did you have the right things you needed?
I think so. I can't remember being poorly organised with stuff like that. I've always been very organised with my belongings. Things have a certain place. My mum's the same. In my house, if something's not, if the scissors live there, if the scissors are there, then they're lost. So I was always quite organised. However, I did lose a lot of music books. So I would leave them on the bus or the train. If they were things outside of my normal routine things, then it was much easier for me to lose. But my everyday staples, very easy.
Good. And what about turning up on time? Not only to school in the first place, but even I think in secondary school, a lot of places, you move rooms for different subjects.
Yeah.
So even just transitioning between rooms for subjects, how did you find that?
School wasn't too bad, I think, because I just followed my mates. College was excruciating, because I would need to get the train into central London and then get the tube to Oxford Circus. I went to a very good college. They made the mistake of telling me that I needed a 60% attendance in order to pass. So I instantly went home and worked out how many classes I could not attend to still meet 60%. But no, I'd turn up 2 hours late. It was so bad. How could I be 2 hours late? Yeah.
Had you left late? Was it the preparation in the morning, the organisation of getting up, getting ready?
Just took ages. Just got distracted by so much stuff. Yeah. I wanted to be at college, because I enjoyed it, but somehow between getting up and getting to the train station would disappear. And then I'd miss my train, and then it'd be oh, I've got an hour to the next one, and then I'd miss that one. It's and some days I was so late I just didn't go, because I can't turn up to college 4 hours late when college is only 6 hours. What is going on there then? I knew that wasn't right, but I also really struggled to make it right.
Yeah. And what about friendships? How did you find friendships, school, college?
Good when I was younger. They've got progressively harder as I've got older. I don't know why. I think because sometimes I can feel misunderstood, and the easiest way for me to protect myself is to not be friends with someone, because I don't want them to fall out with me. So I'd rather protect myself, and I don't fall out with them. I just stop being friends with them, and I don't classify myself as a particularly good friend. I forget birthdays. I forget that anything even exists outside my own tunnel vision sometimes, and so people and things can disappear, which makes me, I'm sure they get upset, but I feel worse because I feel like a bad friend.
Yeah. And seeing as we've touched on friendships, we might as well run with it. In terms of socially, like any issues with wanting to interrupt people, finish their sentences.
I do interrupt because I get excited. But growing up, I think having a bit more self-awareness, I'm like, and then as soon as they finish a sentence, I'm like, bah! Yeah. So interrupting, but probably not finishing sentences.
But then do you find that you're not necessarily paying attention to what they're saying because you're focusing on not interrupting?
Yeah, that can happen a lot because they're saying something and I'm thinking, oh, I've got something similar that happened to me, and I'm just like, and they're carrying on talking. I'm just thinking, I can't wait to tell you. And then, yeah, and also sometimes if someone's talking to me, I'll have so many thoughts in my brain that one will start and then the next will come over it. And they're like that. And then they'll go, my friends say, you all right? I'm just like, I've got so many thoughts in my head. But they're talking about their day, and then I'm just like, oh, bad friend moment. But having this process and knowing about this stuff, I'm like, okay, right, that's okay. You've recognised it, rein it in, pay attention. So even that's a process.
Yeah. And makes
it
sound very easy.
Yeah.
But in practice, it's probably not as straightforward.
Yeah, some days it's easier than others.
Yeah.
Depends where I'm at in my brain.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the energy.
Yeah, for sure, which makes sense. And when you went to college, how did you find the transition from school to college? Because it's more self-directed learning, less structure.
Well, I did beauty therapy as my HND, and it was a lot of practical.
Yeah.
The theory, again, I identified when homework was important, when it wasn't. If it was critical to me passing, yeah, of course I would do it. But if it wasn't, you know what, I'm not going to do it. I think that was seen as naughty, but I wasn't being naughty. I was, it was almost as though I was incapable. I'm not capable of sitting down and doing homework. I was at home making homemade face masks and doing the practical side of things, and actually trying products and doing facials on my mum and all that kind of stuff. But as for the academic side, no, it was never going to happen.
And when you did have to do some of the academic stuff, how did you find the process of having to sit down and actually do it?
I can't remember doing it. I genuinely can't picture myself sitting at the table doing it. I would imagine that I would put in the minimal effective dose to enable to like get through.
Yeah.
Which isn't great. No.
And in terms of like the house when you were little, like messy bedroom, tidy bedroom?
Tidy. Yeah, tidy, organised. Probably not clean, because I like tidy, but I can't stand doing housework because there's other stuff I want to do. I'm even the same now. But when I do housework, I do housework.
Yeah.
You know, there's not a centimetre of my house that isn't cleaned. So it's all or nothing. Yeah.
And when you do the all, do you do it in a methodical fashion? Or do you get distracted and kind of bounce around?
Well, it's never planned. I love the way you're laughing. It's never planned. I never plan to do the all. My mum will come home and be like, oh, you're cleaning. Like, I've been doing it for 4 hours and there's just stuff everywhere. Vroom, 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 and cloths. And So it will be a moment where I think, that needs a jolly good clean, and then I start and I'm like, oh, and then over there, over there, over there. And I think what I've learned is that it's okay to not be methodical. If that moment is there for me to have this sporadic cleaning frenzy, then I'll just go with it. And me going with it has led me to some pretty good places. So I tend to just go with it these days.
Yeah, and just harness the mojo.
Yeah, and embrace it rather than beat myself up like I've done for so many years.
Yeah. And then what came after college?
What came after college? I got a job in a fantastic spa. I worked on a Disney Magic cruise ship.
Awesome.
Because I knew in college where I wanted to work. I wanted to work on the cruise ship. I wanted to work in this particular spa. I wanted to work in that spa. And I always managed to get to the places that I wanted to work. I think it was because of my determination and my drive. These places saw, wow, she's confident. So let's take her. Like, her grades aren't the best, but you know, she's going for it. After doing the rounds of those 3 top destination spas, let's call them, I went self-employed at 21, opened my own beauty salon at 24, which was the goal, always the goal. I knew since I was about 8 years old.
Amazing. And what kind of things did you find tough with running your own business?
I'm always surprised when I look back at my 23-year-old self when I was planning to open my first beauty salon. I'm like, where did I find that drive and that motivation, that confidence, that self-belief? Like, where did that come from? I've still got a lot of those things, but at 23, I mean, no one taught me how to do any of this stuff. So, like, wow, but I was so focused. Mood boards, dealing with solicitors, like, what? Who even? And so I was so in it that I didn't really find any challenges. I found it very easy, and I was very good at what I did. So it ran very smoothly. Finances, bank loan. It was only later when I moved and expanded and I started hiring people, more stock, more things to do, that my brain started to malfunction. In fact, I'd never thought about it, but I think my first bout of bad mental health was when I was 28 and I moved to my bigger premises age 26. I'd never considered that there might be a correlation there, because I was spinning, juggling,
for sure,
spinning that plate, juggling, doing something with that foot. There was a lot going on, a lot of moving parts, and the bigger and more successful we got, the more complicated it got.
And how did you notice, when you say your brain was malfunctioning, what kind of things did you notice that was changing?
Well, I started to get depressed. I had my first suicidal thought when I was 28. It's so difficult to explain that feeling because I don't feel like it now. But when it happens, my brain is so exhausted, so physically exhausted. It's like the feeling that someone would have after, I don't know, running a marathon and giving it their all. You just feel battered. And that was the feeling that I had in my brain, and it would happen for so long that it's just like, I don't want to feel like this anymore, and I can't do this.
Yeah.
Waking up every day and thinking, here we go again. I've lost my trail of thought.
That's all right, you're doing really well. We were talking about how things that you noticed within the business that then became difficult that you'd previously been doing well.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and then I think once that started, it was just then it was just got incrementally worse. That was when I started to fall out of love with the business, because it started very easy, very simple. It then turned into something very complex. I was I was warned. That sounds really bad. I was warned earlier on in my career that once I started hiring people, getting bigger premises, that things would get complicated. I was like, no, it'll be fine. I'm pleased I did it because I've got the experience and I fulfilled what I thought I wanted. And it has taught me a lot, but it was too much. And then I had to shut it because my brain felt like it was melting and coming out of my ears.
Yeah.
It was far too much to handle as one person.
And then what came next?
Well, what came next? So 2015, so I was 32 when I closed the salon in an abrupt manner because I couldn't find a way out. So I just closed it. One day it was open, the next day it was closed, and people were like, whoa. But I couldn't find a way out, and I also couldn't carry on living like the way I was. And then I thought, because I'd always managed to get what I wanted, not in a bad way, not like, oh, I want that bag, I'm going to get the bag, but the job in the 3 spas, the business, that I had my eye on that premises, then it came available, then I moved in. I'd always got what I set my sights on. So I thought, business is closed, I'm going to have all this time and energy to focus on getting the next thing. Well, I couldn't find the next thing. And not having a purpose in life, I've realised for me, is dreadful because my mental health absolutely plummeted. Now, didn't have a reason to get up.
Yeah.
Well, I also became homeless because I didn't have anywhere to live. I wasn't earning particularly good money. I had a van, so I lived in my van, which was so miserable. So I didn't have a purpose, didn't have much money, didn't feel valued in society or life. Just like, what on earth has happened? So that was a really peculiar 3 or 4 years where I was so lost.
Yeah.
But thinking, where do I want to go? What's my next thing? Maybe there is never going to be a next thing. Maybe that was the highlight of my life. I don't remember a lot about that time because my brain has a good ability to block that stuff out. I think that's a good thing, but maybe it's not. I'm not sure. So I can't really remember a lot about that time. But early mid-30s was pretty ropey. Really tough. Yeah.
And then what happened next?
Well, the one thing that was good in my life at the time was doing a lot of fitness events. And fortunately, I was working with a few companies within sports and fitness, just ticking over, earning a few £100 a month. I don't know how I did it. God, I really don't know how I did it. So I would have events to go to and film or work for or be the salesperson for or whatever. And sometimes those events they would be 2 weeks, so I would get somewhere to stay in a hotel as well, which was always great because I'm like, yeah, I've got somewhere to live for 2 weeks. In amongst all of that, somehow, I'd been invited to row in a rowing boat around Great Britain. You're like, what? There's much more complexities. It's not.
I can imagine.
It's not as simple as that. But I said yes, and somehow I managed to raise the money to do it, and I did that. As a result of doing that, I then got invited onto a team to row across the Atlantic Ocean.
Amazing.
Yeah, it is amazing. So all of this stuff, I'm like, oh, it's not really a purpose in life, but it's giving me a purpose. So then I did that, and I ended up working for the race that hosted the Atlantic Row, which was great because suddenly I was then back on this ladder. I had a career I had a focus. I was good at it. I was good at my job. I was a social media manager for sports events and fitness brands all over the world, actually, which was bizarre because I was really struggling to find somewhere to live. And then I'm managing a company from China. I'm managing a company that worked from Europe, and then a few in the UK. It's like, oh, this is weird. How did that happen? And so I did that for a few years, social media management, and somehow then became a YouTuber. Yeah.
And how have you noticed, do you find things difficult? Have you noticed things kind of getting in the way when you're doing your YouTube work?
I have found it in the past, not so much anymore. I found it because the process for me is write a basic script, then do research if it needs it, film, then edit. All parts of every 4 aspect of that: script, research, film, edit, is really tough. It takes a tremendous amount of energy for me to even sit at my desk and start. So much, it's so hard sometimes. But what I've learnt recently is that, because I always thought it was going to get easier, the more I do, the easier it's going to get. What I've learnt is, for me, it won't. It's always going to be hard. Because at the end of every video, there's this triumph. I've made a video. I always say it to my friends and my parents, I've just finished a video. And I can see part of them, they kind of go, well, I mean, they don't say it, but I almost feel them go, well, that is your job. It's like, but for me, it's such a huge triumph because I've gone through this arduous process. Even though I call it arduous, I really enjoy it. There's no other job that I would like to do. And so I've had to build really strong structures in my life to get me to my desk in the morning. Because I work from home. It's the only place that I can really work from because of the environment. I need a particular environment. But sometimes getting to the desk is like, but I'm getting so much better at it. And to then not get to procrastinate. And I've spent so long procrastinating. In fact, there's, for the people that do watch my videos, they will see big chunks of time in between videos because I'll make a video and then I'll be like, I'm exhausted. So I'll need a week to recover.
Yeah.
And then, but now I seem to be managing my time, myself and my time a bit better. But everything else slips away at that expense.
Yeah. And what have you found that helps when it comes to managing things, kind of coping mechanisms or strategies that you've put in place?
I need a strict daily routine. So I do the same thing pretty much every day. I would say at the same time, but that would be a lie. There's like a...
There's a window of opportunity.
There's a window of time that I do it within. And if I follow that structure, I can normally be at my desk for 9, half 9. That again is such a lie. Sometimes it's 10, sometimes it's 11. But in my head, I'm there at 9. I'm like, I've been through the structure and I've done the important things. And that includes exercise because exercise is really important to me. But all I'll think about is I need to get to my desk. But there's also other stuff that I need to do. It's like I need to get to my desk. Because as soon as I'm there, and like 20 minutes, I can drop in.
Yep.
But before that, it's like,
And how has sleep been impacted?
Sleep's very good. I'm really good at sleep.
Good.
Yeah, I'm great at it. Yeah, I'm a sleep pro. I'm like 8.5 hours. If I can do 9,
We're winning.
we are loving life.
And is it, you can drop off okay? Like you can switch off, make the transition from, like have that wind down period?
Yeah, I'm pretty good because I'm not on my phone. I turn all the lights to red. if I've been watching TV, that needs to go off. Sit with the cat for a bit, do a bit of stretching. But there are days. The other night, I was laying in bed, and I thought of an intro to a video. I was like, that's such a good intro. And I know if I don't write it down, it'll be gone. Because those moments are sweet. Because I'll struggle to write a script, and it'll be, wow, so boring. But sometimes, boom, the script will be there. Like, it's not as though I've written it. It's like someone has delivered it into my brain. So then I'm laying there, and then I've got a bedtime phone that isn't a phone. It's just got my meditation apps, but it's got my notes on. So then basically, I write a whole video script laying in bed, and then I go, it's out my brain, and I kind of go to sleep with a big smile on my face. I sleep all the way through.
Good. And what about waking up in the mornings?
Pretty good. Yeah. It helps that I have a gym buddy, and we rely on each other to be there at a set time. She's also got an important job and children, so she needs to be in and out at a set time.
Yeah.
Prior to her, not so great, because no one's relying on me. But she's one of the best things that's happened to my morning routine, because the alarm goes off same time every day, and then of course my body gets used to that. And so here we are, let's go. Yeah. And I also know that if I get up and do all of that stuff, I'm going to feel so much better. Rather than having a lazy morning. It feels like a good idea. It always feels not good.
Unravels all the good work.
Yeah, I always think, more rest, I'm going to rejuvenate, and then it'll get to 11 and I'll just, like, no, I don't feel good. I should have done the morning routine, and then if I felt like resting, come home and rest.
Yeah. And what about diet? Any binge eating, forgetting to eat, restrictive eating?
My first reaction was going to say I eat really well. I do eat very well. However, it's interesting because I hadn't even realised this was a thing. I eat really healthy whole foods, no processed foods, lots of good quality protein, organic vegetables.
Nice.
Look in my fridge and you'll be like, wow. But sometimes I'll go to the shop like I'm possessed. Nothing else will matter apart from junk food. Like I need it.
Yeah.
And I'll buy so much and I will eat the whole lot. And I hadn't realised that was a binge.
Yeah.
I thought that was quite normal. Because when I told a friend several weeks ago, I said 2 family packets of crisps the other day, but she said, hold on, what did you eat? And I told her, and she's like, 2?
Yeah, as in like the big ones?
Yeah, easy. I said, it was easy. I said, I think I even ate one before I opened it in the car park and it was gone before I got home. It's like, what? And I couldn't work out if she was surprised that I was doing it or if it generally was just a
like
weird
another
thing.
person had managed it.
Yeah, and so then I'm like, maybe that is weird. But the thing that I think concerns me the most is when I'm in my hyperfocus. And I've been in hyperfocus a lot recently because the seasonal period is very fruitful for me. And I'll always eat breakfast because when I get back from the gym, I'm so concerned that I've worked really hard and now I need to nourish my body.
For sure.
And also I'm so hungry as well. So then I'll get to work and like sometimes the day will just melt. I won't eat.
Yeah.
I won't. Or if I do eat, it'll be like, what can I get in my body that's healthy as quick as possible? So it'll be like blueberries, great, and the whole day will melt. And I've only just recently realised that I also don't drink.
Yeah.
I forget.
Yep.
It's not even a thing because I'm locked
Yeah.
in. But of course, by the end of the day, I'm like, yeah, I've got all this work done, but ultimately, day after day, if I do that, I'm going to feel like total shit.
Yeah, it's really unhealthy.
It's really unhealthy. And then, of course, my brain as well. Not only my physical self, but my brain is like, whoa, what are you doing to us? You're not nourishing your body, and you're doing that to your brain.
Yeah, it's depleting the resources.
But it's not as though I go, oh, I should eat. No, I'm going to put it off. Let me do. It doesn't exist.
Yeah.
It's like not even a thing.
Doesn't register.
Yeah, it doesn't. No, it's not even there. So it's like, how can I do something if I don't know that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just not registering.
Yeah.
It's like out of sight, out of mind, but not a thing.
And that's become worse since I've lived by myself, because before I lived with my mum, and I lived with her for 3 years, and because I used to make lunch for us both, there would be a reason for me to stop, because of course my mum was going to be hungry.
Yeah.
And she's like, are you going to do lunch soon? But she would get back from work at 11:30, which would be mum's home, let's start preparing lunch, and we would eat at 12:30, and we would spend an hour together. She would make drinks, so then I'm drinking a drink, and then I'd go back to work. But since I've lived by myself, I've not been as good. Not terrible, but there are days that I just think that is absolutely diabolical behaviour. Like, you can't sit at your computer just transfixed like that.
Yeah, you can't. It's not sustainable either.
No, completely not.
Yeah, and that's the difference. And what about caffeine? Tea, coffee, energy drinks?
I only just started drinking coffee 4 months ago because of my understanding that it could benefit a neurodiverse brain. So because I like experimenting, I started having 1 cup of coffee. Before that, I would have a green tea, and it was only one, and that was fine. So now we've gone for a coffee after my breakfast. Bloody hell, it's good, isn't it? Gee whiz.
What difference have you noticed?
There's no procrastination. It drops me into... I would say it drops me into hyperfocus. Not sure if that's good or bad. I always thought that because my brain is hyperactive, I've always known my brain is hyperactive since I was a kid. I've always known that my brain works differently. Not in like a, I'm different, or I'm different. It's just, yeah, I know that my brain works differently. So I thought drinking caffeine would make me even more crazy, wild. But I'm surprised that it has such a effect.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't feel hyperactive. I feel incredibly focused.
Which would make sense, because caffeine is a stimulant, and what we give people as medication for ADHD are stimulants.
That's mad, isn't it?
So, yeah, people, I think, when they hear that, they think it's counterintuitive. Why would you give somebody who's potentially hyperactive? You know, the assumption is it will make them more hyperactive, but actually it doesn't. It helps the brain adjust with the dopamine level, and then they can feel more focused, they can concentrate, their memory improves, they can retain information that they've learned instead of it going like kind of in one ear and out the other.
It's like, yeah, it's making water go in my eyes because it's unbelievable to me. I also, side note, take nootropics. I have bought them with me. They are amazing. They're better than the caffeine because they don't put me in... Well, they do.
No, they don't. Yes, they do.
I have to put it in like visual, but the caffeine does this.
Yeah.
And that's when I don't eat.
Like tunnel vision.
That's when I don't eat and drink. But the nootropics, they make my brain so clear. And I'm just at my computer, just flow. I'm just in the flow, but like a really pure, clean flow. And they take 20 minutes to work, and I do find that I can come out, have a drink, go to the toilet, come back and just be like, whoa, this is great. It's like music, you know, or a dance. They are great. I don't take them all the time. I take them when I'm like, I need to get stuff done.
Yeah.
And I don't want to rely on them. I was also going to say that growing up and into my adult, I never took any kind of drug
Awesome.
either, because I always felt as though these things were I would see them do it to my friends and they would be like hyped up, and they all said to me, you don't need it, because I was already hyped. And so I always felt as though drugs would hype me up too much. And I still believe that they would not be good for me, because the crash, I think I would be so bad on. Even the crash of normal life sometimes is big.
Yeah, it can be rough.
So nothing like that.
What about alcohol?
Used to drink a lot as a teenager, don't drink any at all now, because it just makes me feel terrible.
Yeah.
Terrible. Yeah, I mean, so awful. So that's completely out, which is no problem. Very easy.
And what about relaxing? Can you switch off, relax? Things we've talked about feeling hyped up.
I'm quite good at relaxing, which always kind of surprises me. I think a lot of people think that I don't relax, but I am very good at it. So I can easily do a nature walk. I can easily not watch TV. I can easily not listen to music and just sit. Normally it helps having the cat there, because we just have massive cuddles. I can lay in the garden and just potter around the house with no stimulation. So I'm quite good at that.
That's good. And you feel relaxed, like calm?
Well, I suppose it depends what phase I am in of work and creativity. Because sometimes I'll sit there and my brain is wild. And sometimes that's a good thing, and I can take advantage of that, whereby I'll be sitting, relaxing, but then boom, woof,
Yeah.
and it's like, wow, okay, let's go. And then other times I'll be forced to be completely relaxed because I'm physically and mentally exhausted. And other times I'll choose to be relaxed and feel very good about it. So like I'll go to a local club that has a sauna, and I'll sit in the sauna, then I'll sit by the swimming pool for like an hour reading my book. That's very easy. And there's times where I'm forced to because I am exhausted, and times where I choose to. And I think I used to kind of not understand it all, but now I just think, well, that is that, and you know, it happened. And
Yeah.
Like, cool, we're having a relaxing morning, brilliant. It's because we worked really hard the last week and you're tired. I'm saying like I'm a second person, but I have these conversations in my head.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Makes sense. And would you say you have cycles of burnout? Like
Yes.
throughout life?
Yeah, definitely. It's very frightening for my friends to witness. They don't like it. So when I've got my foot on the gas, understandably, they give me words of caution. I never listen. But I am getting better at managing myself to try and prevent the burnout. Sometimes I've come to the realisation that could be, not definitely, it could be part of me and my creative self. That could be the way it is. Having listened to some other creative people, it's a sacrifice. I think I'd need to make a sacrifice. I either haven't got my foot on the gas as much and I don't burn out, but then I don't produce some of those bits of work that I'm just like, yes. Or I've got my foot on the gas and I understand that then I run the risk of burnout. So, you know.
It's hard to find the balance.
Yeah.
But you're right, because creativity often is a very kind of all or nothing. If you're going to go for it, people have to get to that other level of going for it.
Yeah, I feel as though sometimes I'm on a train and the train just goes.
Yeah.
So I'm like, cool, we're on the train.
Going
Let's
with
go.
it.
Yeah. Like, I have to do it. It's almost like I don't have a choice. I have to do it. But it helps that I haven't got children and a husband and, you know, I've got a good life where I can think of something and go, right, here we go, on the train.
Yeah, you can kind of have the exclusion of all else because there's no other expected kind of areas where people are going to be wanting things from you. So you then can just plough all of your energy into one thing.
Yeah, so I think my circumstances probably lend themselves to that in a good and bad way.
Of course. Well, it's balance. Which is probably why you don't always notice the symptoms so much when you are working, because it lends itself to that kind of work, that environment, and that kind of all or nothing. When you go with it, you can really go with it.
Yeah.
Whereas if you had, like you say, partner or children, other plates to spin, then it might feel like quite a lot to juggle.
Yeah.
Whereas at least that way, you can just dedicate to that one thing and really run with it, especially when hyperfocus is going to kick in.
I didn't even realise that was a thing up until I've researched all of this.
Yeah.
And that is me all over. Hyperfocus, yeah.
But would you say that gives you also a positive though as well?
Huge positive.
Yeah.
My YouTube channel, I don't think would be where it was without my hyperfocus.
Yeah, I'd imagine that takes a lot of work, dedication, and again, it's just following it to the nth degree and not giving up on it.
It's an obsession.
But then if you listen to actors, artists, their craft has to be to that kind of obsessive point if they're going to succeed and be successful in it.
Yeah, I don't mind it being an obsession because I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's what I choose to do with my life.
And any physical health issues?
Just a little bit of autoimmune something going on. Nothing major.
Do you take any medication for anything?
No medication. But physically, pretty good. Mostly the health problems come in my brain.
So seeing as we've touched on that, let's talk about it a bit more. So we've mentioned some ups and downs with mental health.
Yeah.
Any medication for that at the moment?
I've taken medication in the past, but I got side effects and I didn't like the way that it made me feel. And I've always felt that I am capable of getting to the root of the problem. And so when I've gone to the GP and they've suggested antidepressants, I've always said no. Even my most recent episode, which was the worst to date, they're like, you need to go on them. And even then I said no, which was mad because I was in such a horrific state. But I knew that I needed to find my way out of this without medication, which is for some people not the right thing. So I'm not saying that is what other people should do. I knew within me I needed to find the reason. And somehow that last episode has led me to where I am now, which I think is the best place I've been in my adult life. I knew that I needed to fix the something else in order to get rid of the depression. Yeah. I've known that for a long time.
Whereas some people know there isn't a something else and it is depression. And that's where I think the fine line is, and the nuance is finding, is it the something else? Yeah. Or is it a depression or an anxiety or whichever it might be, or however it manifests in that person's life. And that's the tricky bit. And it might sound like a bit of a random offshoot, but any clumsiness doesn't have to be literally tripping or falling, but even just bruises, you don't know where they came from, leaving cupboards open.
I wouldn't say clumsy in everyday life and bruises, but if there's a game, say like a wedding or a party, I generally won't participate because I have a concern that I can be clumsy and that I could hurt myself, so I generally decline, which people are surprised about because they're like, you're so fun and you, but because I have been clumsy and made mistakes in the past, I generally like don't put myself in those environments. Yeah. And if if I was to learn rock climbing or skydiving, I wouldn't, because I fear that my clumsiness could lead to a really bad accident.
Yes.
Or forgetfulness.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I kind of managed that accordingly.
And how would you say you manage like day-to-day things, like if you've got appointments or commitments?
Terrible. Really bad. The amount of important meetings that I forgot because I'll be so focused, and then 2 hours later, you're not coming to the... that was so important. Yeah. So now I have to set 3 different alarms to remind me to start getting ready, to remind me to leave, and also to remind me that it's happening. Getting better. So like today I was here an hour before because so it's like an hour, or I probably would have been here very last minute.
And what about emotional regulation?
Terrible. Absolutely awful. I can't think of any examples.
I know it's a hard one, it's not always a clear example.
I can't think of any examples.
It doesn't even need to be specific examples.
Yeah,
Even just knowing that you feel things maybe more intensely.
I'm so emotional.
Yeah.
Such intensity.
Yeah.
To the point where I can't watch normalish programs because it'll hit so hard. Like I was at my friend's the other day and we were watching something with her 13-year-old son, and they were perfectly fine, and I ended up in the kitchen crying because a dog got run over, and I'm like, we're gonna have to turn this off. And the way she looked at me, like, she didn't say it, but as though like your reaction is so irrational.
Yep.
But I knew that dog wasn't real. It's all acting. So, she said, I'm not getting upset because I know it's not real. And I'm like, I know it's not real. And then it's like, why am I so emotional? I'm so sensitive. Even my friends say, stop being so sensitive. And even that makes me go, like, I'm broken. Yeah.
So this will be an interesting one then. Seeing as you do YouTube for a living, that's a very public platform.
Yeah.
Criticism, like perceived rejection, how do those kind of things affect you? Because I'd imagine you get some really great comments, and then there's always going to be the flip side.
Wow. What? No one could ever prepare me for what that. However, it's very different because I knew that was going to come part of the territory.
Yep.
These are complete strangers, some of which are probably very unhappy and or very unhealthy and or very unwell. So I can easily bypass that. I also bypass a lot of the good stuff because too much of the good comments can create so much of a rush that it's quite unhealthy for me. And also the bigger my channel gets, I don't read as many. Because I have to protect myself.
For sure.
But criticism coming from people that I know, I'm quite good at taking it, but it will sit heavy, and I'll have to really work to to not get emotional and see it that they've trusted me to give me that information to process it in a responsible way.
And then how does that link to self-esteem?
I've always been very confident. I think I've got good self-esteem. Yeah, it's come from being a kid and doing lots of competitive dancing. Also, I think from being an only child and just being myself. Self-esteem's quite high. Apart from when I'm unwell in my head and I feel that literally everyone hates me.
Which makes sense.
Yeah.
And have you noticed any particular time where symptoms feel worse than other times?
Before my period, but thankfully now, because I've had some blood tests, I'm on some different supplements, so my hormones aren't as out. But I had very bad PMT to the point where the PMT would turn into depression once a month. the low feeling that I would get was awful, and now it's almost non-existent.
Yeah.
Because I'm taking certain supplements, so that's great. And of course, when I'm tired, there's an inability to self-regulate.
And then it'll be interesting to see as you age, coming into premenopausal and then menopausal. Exactly, so much to look forward to. But then the hormone levels again changing. It will be important to keep them as good as you can, because then again, like periods, you'll notice as the hormone levels drop with menopause, people can then recognise their symptoms do change, and it will potentially feel like it's, you know, getting worse again. You could feel on a really even keel, and then that will drag it down.
Wow.
Because it's linked very much so. So that's something to look forward to.
Yeah, I can't wait. Although I do work with a great guy who does do blood testing, has got me on a really, without that, I don't know where I'd be. Because if I forget to take my gel, I can feel it's like someone's winding up an elastic band inside me.
Yeah.
If I forget, and then when that feeling like, I've forgotten to take my gel, go and take the gel. A couple of days later, brilliant. Yeah.
And any sensitivity, so like noise, light, fabrics, foods. I was trying to think of some kind of examples.
Noise, yeah. Ticking clocks. If I'm in a busy environment, like nights out, and someone's talking to me, I can't hear I can't process what they're saying, so I have to wear earplugs. I have got sensitive hearing. Someone told me I've got small ear canals, so then the sound compresses itself. There's certain noises that it's like I need to get out. I'm completely intolerable. Public transport I really struggle with, so noise cancelling headphones are my friend. And there's noises at the gym where if they happen, it's like they take my breath away, and then my friend and her son will be like, just normal. And I'm thinking, well, how are you, if it happens, she knows that she can't talk to me because I can't concentrate.
Yeah. Do you drive?
I do.
How do you find driving?
I'm definitely getting worse as I get older. A bit of anxiety. People driving very close and very fast. I don't drive listening to music. I can't work out if it's because cars are getting faster or if I'm getting more intolerant.
Or a combination of both.
Or the combination of the two. But it's not too bad, but I don't particularly enjoy driving.
Anything you want to add, or anything that you think we've not covered, or any positives that you've noticed other than the hyperfocus?
When I was younger, I used to buy so much stuff. I was definitely addicted to the dopamine rush of the buying. So irresponsible with money. If I had it, I just spent it. Definitely better now. And I recently did an experiment where I wore the same outfit for 100 days, and that taught me a lot about my emotional responses to stuff. And I'm in the process of really downsizing.
Nice.
But going all or nothing, I mean, I'm downsizing.
Wow.
And it feels good because the less stuff I own, the less stuff I want to buy. So it's a really good practice for me. But that's in typical Laura style. I'm not just going to get rid of a few things.
Just everything.
I am downside. Like, I'm going for it.
All or nothing.
All or nothing, yeah. Something that we haven't touched on, and that's very apparent to my friends, is if I'm in conversation with someone and the conversation isn't engaging to me, I literally shut down. They see it to the point where they have to kind of give me a little nudge to get me kind of, Laura, stop. Because I think people think I'm being rude, but I'm not. It's a complete inability for me to lock in and stay engaged, and a total close down. Or even on a night out, it's Laura's having a great time. No, she's going home now, because it's like, I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm having a great time. I'm done now, go. and it's like they can see it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And you say the social battery just kind of runs down
Very quick, like boom. I need to be at home now. I need to,
not with a journey, just transport me straight there.
I need to be at home because it's like too much. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I get really excited sometimes, and I just don't tend to manage myself great sometimes.
Mm-hmm. And anything else you want to add?
Let's have a little
I'm going
look.
to say I love it when people come with a list.
Got the list.
I love a list.
Oh, look at me. 27 points.
I love it.
Hyperfocus or total burnout. Mum comes up to help with jobs, and I hadn't realised it was a thing. Acts as my body double.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I'm age 42, and yet she'll need to come up and help me take my washing in because I need to empty the dishwasher, and I can't do both. Because how is anyone meant to do both? It's too much.
So it's not like she's doing it for you, but having her there makes the difference.
Huge difference. I get overwhelmed if I've got too many tasks to do. So in my day-to-day life, thankfully, because of my job, I say no to everything. If it's not a video, it's a no.
Yeah.
But that's also bad because it can often be no to friends. That's not good. Interestingly, see, sometimes I feel like I'm another person. Self-loathing and negative self-talk. So that's not me now. But that was me because I've written it.
Yeah, because you wrote it in the other period.
Paranoia and masking. Yeah, when I'm down. Paranoia that people hate me. Exhausted by the afternoon. That has been the case. This is a great one.
Can't wait.
Ever since I've can't wait. Ever since I've lived by myself, my mum has to text me every night and every morning that I have to put my bin out. But I still forget. And she's the person, I can't even believe that I'm admitting this, A, to you, and also to two cameras. There's been times where it's not even there that she'll have to ring the council and have to come like get the bin because I forgot to put it out so many times. And then I forget to take it in. It'll be out for days.
Yep.
And I walk past it like every day.
But it doesn't register.
No. How do people even remember to put their bin out? How does my mum remember to text me?
To put your bin out, not even her own bin.
Forgetting appointments, have to set multiple reminders. Can't make plans too far ahead because I don't know where I'm going to be emotionally. Like on an emotional battery level.
Yeah.
And I do tend to let people down because I physically haven't got the energy to go. But then if I have, then yay, great time. I was very naughty in school. I can't read a lot of text. So if there's like a big long something, it's like, it's not happening. You're gonna have to, someone's going to have to tell me what this is. Sensitive to light and noise. Suspect I've got some misophonia. So certain noises I like latch on.
Yeah.
Like I need to get out of this room. Very sensitive. Irrational emotions. Constant chat in my head from morning till night. Impulsive. Used to be a shopaholic. I'm very impulsive. I'm like, oh, I'd like to do that. Okay, yeah, we're going to do it. Great. It's great, but sometimes not. I require a lot of discipline and motivation to do my job. This helps me. I wear the same clothes. I eat the same meal plan every week. I've got an exercise plan because that minimises my decisions and prevents me from getting overwhelmed. Oh, and not being able to keep a job for very long. I'm terrible. I'm a terrible employee because I'm just all over the place. Yeah, and I struggle to work with other people because it's like they don't get me, and then
And then a level of masking comes in because then you're having to potentially be who you think they want you to be or how you should be or how you're perceived.
And I'll do the sprints and then the exhaustion, which is like completely not conducive to a normal job.
Or a healthy state of being, going from the crash and then the functioning.
God, I've been writing these for a long time. busy, chaotic, constant chatter in my head, so many ideas. I can't keep up. It's like I can't keep up sometimes. Wow.
And you find you've started things and then dropped them?
Often in the past, however, given my job and I've got commitments to sponsors and I commit long periods of time to making videos, once I've started, it's like, yeah, we should really finish that. But there's tons of videos that I've started making and it's like, yeah, I'm not interested in that anymore, and they go straight in the archive. And I've spent weeks making it. It's like, no. Here's the thing, if I am not interested in it, I can't make it.
Yeah.
And I've had to cancel videos with sponsors who have agreed to pay me a lot of money. And my friends, my mum and my dad are like, just make the video. This is a lot of money. It's like, you don't understand. I can't make it because I'm not interested. I can't make something that I'm not in. I can feel it in my stomach even when I'm talking about it. I can't do it if I'm not interested in it. It has to excite me. I have to feel enthusiastic. I've already told you about forgetting appointments, forgetting birthdays, important dates.
Yep.
Totally not interested in something I don't want to do. That's even since I was young. Zone out when people talk to me. Friends tell me that I switch off. People can't keep up with my conversations because I go off on tangents. Easily distracted. Hyperfocus. Go for hours on something, sometimes without eating or showering. Don't like to be interrupted when I'm in the zone. Whoa. My mum used to get really defensive because she thought it was her, but now she realises it's not her, it's the fact that I was in.
Yeah.
And that it takes me a lot of energy and time to get in.
Yeah.
So to then be pulled out, I'm like, it's going to take me ages to get back in. Find it extremely hard to finish certain work projects. Poor stress and temper management. That's not great. I am much better now. Difficult with following verbal instructions. Wow, that's an interesting one.
Yep.
Because if someone tells me something, I'll have to write it down. Well, I haven't, but they have to say it really slow. Like they'll tell me something and I'll go, whoa, you need to stop.
Yeah.
Tell me the first thing, and then it's like, I have to see it in my head or write it down. Okay, yeah. It's because the verbal, it was just, you might as well just put water in a sieve. It's like...
Not tangible.
No, can't lock onto that information. Not very good at managing romantic relationships and friendships. Yeah, I think a lot of the stuff we've already covered.
Good.
Great. Yippee.
Do you want to know the outcome?
Oh, no. Yes, I feel... Oh, okay, I'm ready.
Honestly, you can edit this however you want.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I think I'm ready. I didn't think that I would feel like this, but I think I'm ready.
You can have a moment.
Because saying all that stuff is like wild, especially reading some of that stuff that I've written when I've been in a really, really tough place. I'm like, oh, I wrote that. I must have
felt it.
It was real because I wrote it.
Yeah.
I'm ready. I'm just putting it off. I feel nervous.
Don't worry. I can definitely confirm a diagnosis of ADHD.
Oh my God. Oh, I can't believe it. Why is it taking 42 years? I can't believe it. Oh my God. Stop it. I don't know what to do. It's unbelievable. Is it? I told my friend the other day, I said, I'm getting an ADHD assessment. She went, no, you've definitely got it. It's like, why have you never told
People
me?
are more anxious, I think, about being told no, because then once they've recognised or found, they feel that it answers a lot of their questions, they've become, I think, more nervous that if they then get a no, well, then what is responsible for the difficulties? Because they know that things don't make sense the way they are. And people want to understand, they want the validation, they want to know that they're not crazy, lazy, whatever label they've heard or given themselves. So I think the no is sometimes more terrifying than the clarity of a yes. Because now you can work with it, because you have that tangible kind of something to what it is.
Well, even the idea of knowing that I may have it I can't tell you how much it's helped me.
Yeah.
Of listening to other people that are like me, where I go, other people are like me?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not broken?
No.
Wow. This is a bit of a weird question. Would you normally put someone on a scale?
No. So
No.
normally we just say to people, you either have it or you don't. And then it can change depending on what's going on in life. You know, it makes sense that symptoms can feel worse, better, depending what's happening. So very often things like a change in job, a change in relationship, it's going to affect how that person copes with their symptoms on a day-to-day basis. So they're going to move around. It's not, you know, because on one day I meet you, things could be really all over the place. It could just be one of those times, like a few months ago.
Whoa.
But then I could meet you in a different place. So it's not really, people are going to move around all the time because of what's going on in their life and external factors and pressures, let alone, as we discussed, hormone changes, health changes. There's just so much. And that's, I think, what people don't realise is the impact it has. It permeates everything.
Yeah.
People think it's just, it's just education or it's just work. But it isn't. It's absolutely every single thing you interact with on a daily basis. It's there.
Yeah.
Because it's so fundamental and it's part of the way you process things. It's not something you can kind of pick and choose when it's going to affect your life. It's just always going to permeate everything.
From morning till night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is why it's exhausting.
From the second I wake up till the second I go to sleep. Which is why I think I need so much sleep. To regenerate.
Yeah.
Because it's non-stop in there. Which is obviously fantastic a lot of the time.
And it's great that you've managed to find a job where you can harness all the positives. And you've now got the knowledge to know where the challenges are and where the self-care needs to come in to not just completely deplete everything all the time. Because then otherwise, that's when you're going to get the crashes and the tumultuous up and down.
Yeah, they're exhausting.
But that comes with experience.
Yeah.
And it's having the self-worth and the self-belief to be like, no, I do deserve that time out, or I need that time out, and the protection of yourself. Not everybody has that esteem where they can be like, no, I am worth protecting, I need to take care of that.
Yeah.
They just give and give and give and give, and then that's when it then just depletes and everything is just all over the place.
It can feel very selfish sometimes to have to give a hard no to certain situations and certain people. It can feel really selfish. But it's like,
But it's not. It's implementing boundaries.
Yeah.
You've got to have boundaries.
Yeah. If the energy isn't there, I can't magic it out.
Yeah.
What's the next step then? What is the normal thing?
So I write the report, which covers what we've discussed, plus all the questionnaires that you filled in, family filled in. They get summarised as well because they all work towards the evidence as to whether we've reached a yes or no. A copy goes to you so that you can check it, make sure you're happy, that you think it's an accurate representation, that I've captured everything that you've told me. And then once you say you're happy, then we send a copy to your GP.
Whoa.
So they can pop it on your medical record as like a
wild.
really official thing.
I've got a tummy ache. That's crazy. I mean, I was convinced I had it, but to hear it, it's like, are you joking me? Yeah.
It's like the official seal of approval.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's different.
Oh, wow. I've got some questions.
Okay.
Because if I didn't ask the questions, I'd probably end up in a big ball of tears.
All right.
Do you think it's something that people are born with, or is it nature, nurture, or like a mixture of both?
So it is a neurodevelopmental condition. So it's not something people catch in adulthood. They don't generally develop it in adulthood. The research isn't there. They are starting to look at whether or not people can develop it in adulthood from different events. But at the minute, it is a neurodevelopmental condition that is there from the beginning.
So something in my brain doesn't work in the same way as someone who's got a neurotypical brain.
Yeah, so it's the dopamine levels in your brain are different. So the neurotransmitter, dopamine, you don't have enough of it. And that's responsible for things like learning, memory, focus, concentration, sense of reward, which is why you cannot engage in things that aren't interesting or that You know, there's kind of that block there. It's not a physical block, but it might as well be, because it feels like such a wall, because your brain is just disengaging because it doesn't have that sense of reward. Whereas neurotypical people, things like housework, they would just have that sense of reward. They're not having that constant argument with themselves, with all the barriers. They're not having to overcome it. It's just that simpleness of task, you know, fulfill the task, move on kind of thing.
Unbelievable.
Makes a big difference.
Yeah. It's almost like saying to somebody with a broken leg, go and run a marathon.
Yeah. And do it in the way that everyone would expect you to, without any support or assistance. Yeah, it'd be like trying to get them to do it, but without crutches or without a wheelchair. It would just be go and do it with your dodgy leg.
Yeah.
And that's what we're expecting neurodivergent people to do, is we're still trying to fit them into a society where it's still very much geared up to neurotypical people. So it's like a square peg in a round hole. We've created all these systems that work, but when you don't process things in the same way and you don't experience the world in the same way, that's where it's tough.
It's really hard for me to explain to someone that doesn't get it how what this thing is that I can feel in my head. It's not me being lazy. I'm not a lazy person. I think a lot of people can see that.
Yeah, generated a whole YouTube channel.
But it's like it's a physical barrier, and I'm like this.
Yeah.
It's not happening. And the more I'm trying to get through, and I'm thinking, well, why is my mate able to do it? And why can my mum do it? She's 78. Why can't I do it? And then I've got all this resentment inside me.
And then that's where the self-esteem issues come in, because then people beat themselves up and they're like, well, I must be lazy. And then they convince themselves they're lazy, because then they'll forget to take the bins out and they'll be like, see, you're useless, you know, whatever you tell yourself. And then it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. We have a negative bias in the brain, so we naturally lean towards the negative. If only we could spiral into a positive spiral, but it tends to lean towards negative. And then it's compounded by the experience of the world around us.
And I can't tell you how much it's helped me since my mum and dad have grasped the idea that I might be a bit different.
Yeah.
And at first they were like, these things weren't around when I was younger. And it's like, oh, okay, maybe the diagnosis or the name wasn't around, but trust me, the physical symptoms, they were around.
Yeah. They just didn't have a label or the vocabulary to express it. People would have just been different or quirky, eccentric, or they'd have done a job where they weren't sat in an office 9 to 5 Monday to Friday. If people were manual workers or something, it may not have been so obvious because they were exerting whatever they needed to exert in a more outward fashion.
Yeah.
Or they'd walk everywhere.
Yeah.
Whereas now society has us, you know, sitting behind desks, doing these jobs that didn't exist.
Yeah.
That's where we're noticing it, because society has changed.
This is so obvious. Has ADHD led to depressive episodes in my life? Did I even ask that?
We touched on it, because we discussed that although, yes, the depression was very real, and it's not saying that it wasn't real, you knew within yourself that you didn't feel like it was just a straightforward depression. You felt like you knew there was something else at work. It was just difficult to maybe explain what it was. So very often, undiagnosed ADHD can lead to anxiety, depression, because it's the byproduct. Because people are trying to fit into this mold that they're struggling to fit into with everything else going on around them. Naturally, yes, their mood is going to dip. Things are going to be difficult, and they're going to be questioning, why are things so difficult? Why can't they just do things what other people are doing? You know, they'll look around them, like you say, friends, family. They all feel like they're flying off and doing really well, and they're potentially being held back. Of course, that's going to naturally have a knock-on effect to somebody's mood and sense of self and being. So it's not to say that having an ADHD diagnosis will completely rid you of any episode of depression, but you're going to have the deeper understanding. And now that you've got the understanding, you'll probably manufacture things around you so that you won't necessarily have the crashes and the burns, because you're going to be like, actually, I know what this is now.
Yes.
As opposed to just like stabbing in the dark. I have no idea what's happening to me, but I know I feel rubbish.
Yeah. I'm feeling rubbish about feeling rubbish.
And then, yeah, that's when the spiral then just snowballs into this big monster that it's like, what do I do with this?
Yeah.
And it's not just as simple as take a tablet and it's all going to be happy
No.
clappy.
The downward spiral is awful. And what would you say to people who say, well, we're all on the spectrum somewhere, or what does giving it a label achieve, or you're jumping on the bandwagon?
So like we said before, I think people, it's like diabetes. You wouldn't go around, if someone came to you and said, I've been given a diagnosis of diabetes, you wouldn't go, you're jumping on a bandwagon. You know, they have a label because it gives them something tangible to work with, something that can either be treated, or if it doesn't need treating, having that understanding is what's necessary. Because without the label, how are you going to do anything about it? You're just going to be lost and not have that anchor. So I think the only time a label becomes a bad thing is when you let people put you in a box.
Yeah.
You know, you let someone limit your capabilities. Oh, well, you've got ADHD, so you can't. And it's like, that's not true. That's completely irrelevant. The label gives you the vocabulary, the self-understanding, the awareness that this is something that's very real and that it does affect your experiences. It's just not letting someone limit you because of a label. And in terms of the bandwagon, like I said, it's always been there. We've not just magically suddenly started getting ADHD. It's been there from day dot. We just didn't have a label. We didn't know what to call it. We'd have just been, oh, Bob down the street, he's a bit weird. Or Bob's got 4 jobs because that's just Bob. When actually there probably was something going on there. So I think we're still facing that stigma with mental health that we can't just accept, oh, okay, someone's got ADHD. Cool. It's still, oh, well, why? Why do they want that label? What are they gaining from it? Yet you wouldn't question a physical health label in the same way. So that's where we've still got to battle the stigma, because it's something people can't see. And there's no, you know, diabetes is a very clear test. Is your blood sugar wrong or not? Is that part of your body functioning correctly or not? We seem to be okay with that. But as soon as we get to issues with the brain, we still freak out. It's like, oh, well, if I can't see it and touch it and know what it is, then it can't be true. So we're still kind of in that transition period of some of us are getting it. We're still trying to catch up the rest of the people, I think.
Yeah.
But we're getting there.
And I would say, someone like me, I'm not wanting to be ADHD.
No.
I'm not doing it for attention. And the fact that I have and do struggle so badly at times proves that there's something wrong. And that I do need some support in order to help me manage in life. Because there's times where I didn't want my life to exist.
Yeah.
Because it was so hard.
Yeah. We don't diagnose people to say, you're broken, let's fix it. We're here to give people the knowledge so then they have an empowered decision. Otherwise, without the knowledge is power. You can't make an informed choice if you don't know what you're making a choice about. So now you know, we will send you the medication information.
Wow.
Because there's no point in me sitting here telling you, because it's going to go, you know, it's a lot to process and take in. So we send it to you so that you can read it in your own time, find a way that works for you, as opposed to me just going, bleh.
Do you offer therapies as well?
Yep. So we have the lifestyle coaching. So there's psychoeducation specifically designed for people with ADHD. And some of it is trial and error. You know, you might try something and be like, I love this. Someone else will try it and be like, yeah, not so much.
Yeah.
So part of it is going to be finding things that you attune with.
Yeah, the fact that I'm 42 and I'm only just now going to start learning about how to manage myself.
Yeah.
I should have been able to manage myself a long time ago. I'd have liked to have a successful relationship a long time ago and a stable finance and a good... Yeah, wow. Like version 2. That's amazing.
And don't be surprised if there is a grieving process, because I think very often people report, although at the minute it might feel really great and like, oh, weight has lifted, there can be that heaviness, because people do tend to then reflect back, especially once you are a certain age. You can't help but look back at what's happened and question, if I'd have known 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 40 years ago. You know, people do naturally, that's a natural process because you can't help it. So it's like, okay, have the process, let it be. Don't beat yourself up over it. You know, just let the process follow whatever path it needs to. but then know, okay, but that is what it is. You know, that's been and gone. You now have the knowledge to then move forward. And like you say, it's version 2. It's not a case of better or worse. It's just a new, updated processing system, because now at least you've got the frigging handbook.
Wow, chapter 2 and chapter 7 got filled in.
Yeah, they did, of the actual correct handbook.
God, I've actually got a tummy ache.
It's intense.
Well, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
That's amazing. Nailed it. She absolutely nailed it. Thank you.
You're welcome.